Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Last week I really enjoyed putting together a random weekend chatty video where I talked about a question from a booktuber, about what I've been doing aside from reading and writing, and about a few other things I've been enjoying lately. And then I watched Steve Donahue's great restart of his The Week in Booktube series, as well as Brian's Saturday Hodgepodge over on his channel Bookish. I'm not sure I really have enough to say to make one of these videos every weekend, but I thought I'd try it again, at least this week. This hasn't been the easiest week for me, honestly. A couple of weeks ago at a Zoom tea party with my neighborhood friends, someone mentioned that a lot of people were hitting their borders after about 6 weeks of sheltering in place. As my friend said, we can all do things for 6 weeks. Well, I wouldn't say things were perfect in any way beforehand, but this week, my 9th week, I think, had a few more tears. It might not make complete sense, but I am feeling more afraid about the future of the world than I did even a couple of weeks ago. But I'm reading fairly well right now, which is a blessing. Until the last couple of weeks, I read only nonfiction. But I've now finished one novel and am significantly involved in 2 more, with another 2 on my radar to pick up as soon as I finish one of the current ones. All because of Toni Morrison 2020 video on the April novel coming in a day or 2. Maybe Midrash, and a buddy read with the amazing Sean the Book Maniac. I'll talk about all of these in coming weeks. I've also engaged in my usual coping strategies / creative outlets, baking a couple of loaves of sourdough bread, which my son said were scored in such a way that they look like Wi-Fi buttons, cutting them open to serve with coffee and books on the deck with my spouse, binding off 2 knitting projects, both of which I hope will be blocked and photographed for next week's Weekly Rambles video, and visiting a trio of young goats brought in by my neighbor in order to provide poison ivy munching services. Well, on to some of the videos on this platform that have brought me some interesting ideas to ponder, some entertainment, both thoughtful and playful, and some pure and silly escapist moments. First is Matthew at Mayberry Book Club. He made a great video taking on a comment Sean the Book Maniac made a while ago on his channel after he read a book by Barbara Pym, one of his very favorite authors, a book that neither Pym nor Sean wanted published. Matthew takes Sean's sort of flippant comment quite seriously and asks us to consider whether novels, but also letters and journals, should be withheld from publication after an author dies. Matthew has put together a thoughtful piece, and the discussion he inspired in the comments is especially fantastic. Check it out. Next, I want to steer you to the channel Scallydandling About the Books. If you aren't already following her, you really must. She has wide reading taste and always has insightful things to say about the books themselves and about her family's bookish life. Recently, she put together her first tag, and it adds something to the genre of tags that I think is just brilliant. Rather than asking us to think in a sort of isolated way about our own reading, she suggests a short series of short poems that she asks us all to consider responding to in a brief way or a more extravagant way, and then consider adding our own, perhaps from our own geographic area or scholarly expertise or whatever. Her specific tag is lovely, but I think her big idea is here to really start a chatty discussion about specific works of literature while making a tag is really quite a contribution. Do the tag and watch some of her other videos as well. Next, I'll mention a small booktuber who I only discovered a couple of weeks ago, and that is Lucas at Bits of Lit. If you can put up with my somnolent style, you'll love his gentle, calm videos where he talks thoughtfully about what he's reading. But sometimes he has a guest on his channel, an alter ego. Don't miss his performances, such as this one. where he teases the fellows over at Codex Cantina and challenges them to read James Joyce. And don't miss the follow-up videos by Una and Crypto, as well as by Lucas. I think I may have to join all of them on Bloomsday, just for the reading, not for the wrestling. Well, I've been watching a few other things on YouTube, other than just great Booktube videos. First, theater. I've mentioned before that my son is a Shakespeare nerd, and he taught both his parents to love Shakespeare as well. So we've been watching some theater online. So much has been coming out lately, but I'll mention just a couple of things. One is the short recitation of the amazing lines of Jaques in As You Like It. This 7 Ages of Man speech has been one of my favorites since my son performed it in his homeschool version of the play back when he was about 6 years old, stuffing a pillow in his vest for a big belly while wearing an old pair of my now empty granny-style eyeglass frames. But the video I'm linking to today is not my son back when he was young, but a deaf actress, or hard-of-hearing actress, who performs the same speech for the Shakespeare's Globe channel. As a person with some background in American Sign Language, having taught in ASL at Gallaudet for a few years, I found it fascinating to watch her British Sign Language, signed in such a way that all viewers, regardless of their knowledge about any sign language, will have quite a bit of access to. And the actors' voices throughout. If you were hearing, or mostly hearing, you can tell she's deaf. But her vocal control, the way she uses her voice to convey emotions, is phenomenal as well. Do give it a view and let me know what you think. Here in the Washington, D.C. area, we're lucky to have access to 2 phenomenal Shakespeare theaters in town, a couple of additional small Shakespeare theaters within an hour's drive, and my very favorite theater, the American Shakespeare Center, just a bit further. We've also got several other local theaters that sometimes perform Shakespeare. One is Roundhouse, which has put together a filmed series about time in quarantine. The episodes are quite short, maybe 10 minutes. The first episode is light, but it has some very clever wordplay. The second is really charming, sweet and romantic, but also heartbreaking, and yet hopeful. The one I'm linking to is the 3rd episode, We Wear the Mask, pulling in other meanings here. And this episode explicitly addresses the experiences of African Americans. I cried at the end, both times I watched it. If you're lucky enough to be in a comfortable position financially during the pandemic, consider throwing a donation to an arts organization you care about, one you love to attend physically in your real life, and perhaps also to one you're enjoying now online that you might never have discovered were it not for their new outreach online during the pandemic. Another great nerdy entertainment is the hysterical and very homemade humor of Emily Wilson, reading from her own translation of the Odyssey. I don't know how I discovered these videos. She just started filming them, and she has just a few hundred subscribers at the moment. I'll link to her 3rd video, but if you like it, go back and start at the beginning and follow her journey, her Odyssey, as she goes forward. To wrap up, I want to list 3 videos which I've enjoyed, almost despite myself, as escapism during this kind of painful week. All really made me smile like crazy. The first is actually from a booktuber, Mark at Richardson Reads, sharing a short video of a tractor parade in his neighborhood. The second is a family band, a musician father with his 3 young children, 2 musically talented boys, and their adorable little sister with her big personality. Every day they put up a new song, and they're getting better and better. I've linked to their version of Simon and Garfunkel's Cecilia, which is definitely rated G. On the afternoon they sing about, they're talking about making lunch in the kitchen. Adorable. And if you're really desperate for something quick to cheer you up, you might finally give in and watch a pet video, something I swore I would never do, but somehow did. This one is a series of unbelievably sweet clips of babies and dogs. At least almost all of them are dogs. So, here is to a good reading week, full of some laughter and joy, full of companionship, however we get it these days, and full of as much peace as we can hold. Thanks for joining me today here on Hannah's Books. See you soon.